Welcome to my garden tour. A little while ago I did a house tour and I'll of course link that down below, but if you are unaware, I recently moved into a historic home from 1905 here in the city of Savannah, and I've shown you the inside of the house in the house tour, but I thought it'd be fun to take you outside and show you a bit around the grounds here and explain some ideas I have on how I really want to utilize the backyard and front yard space I do have here for growing plants, herbs, flowers, and a lot of green witch activities. And as you can see, this is city living. I do live in the heart of Savannah, so you are going to be hearing some car noises as we're going through the tour. I apologize about that, but I really want to make the best use of the little space I do have. And the first thing I wanted to show you here is the porch, which has been a recent project. I recently picked up these hanging baskets and I put them all along the kind of wraparound porch here. And right now I'm just growing some simple petunias in them, just trying to really kind of create a nice curb appeal. But maybe down the road when I learn a bit more about different flowers, I really would love to incorporate some different varieties and things like that. I do have a few other things of note here on my porch. I do have a rosemary plant in a pot by the door. Rosemary is of course a wonderful culinary herb. It's actually really good in an herbalism and a green witch context too. It's said to improve your memory among other things. So I love using rosemary in, not just cooking, but also spells from time to time. I also have the beginnings of an eating area right outside a door that leads to the kitchen on my porch. And I do hope to eventually have a bigger dining table in this space. Right now I just have a simple card table that I already owned. And I love the idea of eating outdoors, and luckily with the weather here I should be able to eat outdoors most of the year. As we go around the porch, I do currently have just a little seating area that I go to for my afternoon cup of tea, though I eventually want to get a maybe hammock or a swinging day bed for the porch, something like that. So still a lot of outdoor furniture pieces to be found for this area. Next, let me take you down the stairs and show you the front garden space. Right now I do have the entrance framed by a couple pots here that just have some petunias in them, though what will be in pots over here will probably change with time. I love the idea of having a dwarf ornamental tree in a pot kind of on this concrete slab, and two of them kind of flanking this entrance. Now there is quite a lot going on in this front garden space. As you can see, we get quite a bit of dappled sunlight from all of these trees here. These are all southern live oaks, which is the tree that Savannah is famous for. They're the ones covered with Spanish moss here, really giving the whole city kind of a romantic vibe, I think. Now, on the gate and front fence line, I have quite a lot of this vine here. This is Carolina jasmine, and the bees absolutely love this. So I do have to keep it under control because it can get quite a bit unwieldy. It really loves growing all along this fence here. Now I have this kind of interesting concrete slab going around this main front garden space. One of the things that you do as a new homeowner is try to figure out what the previous owner already planted. So I haven't planted any of this. Right now I am just figuring out what's already here and what my ideas and goals are for this space. So as you can see, I've started with some plant identification, just trying to figure out what's already in here. A lot of ivy, a lot of snake plants, and I have these two really beautiful camellias. Camellias are a type of shrub or tree that grows pretty bountifully here in the south. Comes in a wide variety of colors. And behind the camellias, I have some pink azalea bushes growing as well. Now, my initial idea for this whole kind of front garden space here is to make it a flower garden, a cutting garden, and to really grow a lot of show-stopping blooms. So I'm still brand new to gardening in general, so it is going to be a learning process, but I love the whole English cottage feel, so that's what I'm going to be going for in this space here. But maybe also growing some edible flowers as well, maybe some nasturtiums, some borage, things like that. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this space is going to progress over time. Now, long-term goal, I love the idea of a little koi pond kind of there in the back, but that's going to be at least a couple years down the road, even if that ever does end up happening. Now over here along the fence line, I do have just a few things that are already growing. This is some mint that I planted a little while ago, and then all of this was just planted by the previous owner. It's mostly ivy. I do have one more camellia here. And there are actually some interesting plants. I think we have quite a few of these, which are crotons, which I think is like a kind of more an indoor tropical plant, but it grows here outside in Savannah, so that's pretty cool. And then as you go along here, you can really see some of those azaleas blooming. It looks like we do have some dead hydrangeas here. Hopefully we'll get some new ones coming through soon as the spring progresses. And over here you can kind of see there's just a narrow alleyway connecting the front yard back to the backyard on this side of the house. But let's go this way and I can show you how to get to the backyard from the other side. So we do have a few other areas for planting kind of along the fence line and along the other side of the front of the house. Not sure what most of this is, so still doing that plant identification. I do have another camellia here, and I actually have a nice little daisy popping up right there. This space here is currently kind of a driveway, though it's pretty uneven and cracked in a bunch of places, so debating on if I want to actually keep this a driveway or just park on the street and instead use this as kind of a fire pit spot. So we'll see about that. Now, I do have quite a bit of ivy growing along this fence line to the point that it's actually starting to destroy parts of the fence, so I do need to take care of that and cut this back a bit so it doesn't harm the integrity of this whole fence. I do have one last camellia here that's doing pretty well, I think. And then now we get into kind of the more chaotic aspects of the garden. So there's a nice space here for a path, and we don't get too much sunlight in this path, but I still want to plant on either side of what will be maybe a small flagstone or a small brick pathway along here. The previous owner constructed this kind of potting shed area, which is really nice to have. It is starting to fall apart a bit, so I might eventually replace this with something a bit more stable. And eventually kind of here growing things, hopefully a garden bed here and a garden bed here, but I'd have to grow plants that are okay with shade. Now, when you buy a house, sometimes you end up with a bunch of junk, which is what I have here. The previous owner had just kind of a ton of wood piles and random pipes and things like that all back there, so I'm starting the process of going through it, figuring out what I can use, keep, or what I need to dispose of. But again, here I want to have kind of just a thin path with garden space on either side here. I actually am starting to grow just a couple things. I have a few lettuces, I have some arugula. We do kind of have two opportunities for growing greens. We can grow them in the spring and the fall here. I'm in zone 8B, so it does get really hot in the summer, so the springtime is really a great time to kind of start getting things going. Here in the corner we have a large garden shed and a small one that the previous owner left. And along here there was actually dead morning glory vines that I had to rip out. Starting to look a little bit better now. And ideally I would love to replace the plastic shed with a wooden one. Possibly move this somewhere else. And if I do and move this a little bit to the side, I might have space here for a chicken coop. Now I need to double check my zoning, but I do think chickens are allowed, and I could probably fit 3 or so and get fresh eggs, which would be wild to be able to do that even though I live in the city. So that's of course a long-term project though. Coming around the corner here, just have my ugly heating air conditioning units. And then we get into some nice garden space here along this fence line. So if you can imagine a nice flagstone path going all along here and around. And I'm starting to slowly identify what's currently here and deciding what to keep and what I ultimately want to plant. I do have a few interesting things. I believe these are blueberry bushes. They're looking a bit worse for the wear, but I'm going to try and fix them up, and hopefully those will grow into nice blueberry bushes. We have a few sad looking roses around, and we have this very beautiful tree that is really starting to green out. And I'm thinking this might be an ornamental pear tree, but I'm not sure. Let me know if you can tell what type of tree this is. And it's been kind of a fun process starting to learn how to identify plants, which is something I am brand new to, really. So if you imagine the small path continuing along here, then we get into our main space that I think I'm going to be using for vegetable gardening, where I'm going to have some garden beds along here, maybe some trellises, maybe an arch trellis kind of going around the path, if you can imagine that. So definitely planning on growing a lot of veggies in this space. And as you can see here, we have another one of those little fences. I believe the previous owner had a dog. That's why they kind of had a fenced area. And then it leads you right back up the porch. Now I do have a couple other gardening spaces that I want to show you that will be good opportunities for potted plants, so let me take you over there now. So I also have this little back deck here, which will be really useful for growing things in pots. And I am going to be getting rid of this grill here because it's kind of completely rusted out and not really working. But yeah, you can see there's quite a bit of space here for growing some things maybe on window boxes, a lot of different things in pots. And it actually leads to a screened-in porch, which during the spring, summer, and fall, I think I'm going to move all my houseplants out here. So it kind of will have this jungle vibe. Obviously a lot of work to be done. There's not really anything in here now. I do currently have some wind chimes, but that's it. So going to be filling all of this space with green tropical plants is the plan. Now I do have one last secret garden space that I want to show you, so let's head upstairs. So this is my upstairs balcony. It has a nice pergola roof here. Recently picked up a bird feeder, which I've really been enjoying sitting here in the morning with my coffee and watching the birds. And this space here actually gets a ton of sunlight during the day. So I'm going to be covering it with plants, hopefully. And I even love the idea of getting some climbing wisteria up along these poles to eventually go on this top pergola space. If not wisteria, some other beautiful kind of climbing vine is the goal. Now one idea I have is to take this door that goes back inside on the second floor and make it a secret door, so that when you are inside the house you just see a bookcase, but the bookcase has like a secret doorknob, and then when you open it you enter the secret garden. So this space I just want filled with plants and flowers, and for it to be kind of like a little surprise. So I hope you enjoyed this short garden tour. Feel free to leave any suggestions for all these spaces down below in the comments. I am brand new to gardening, so I'm going to be a newbie. I'm going to be making lots of mistakes, but I am so excited to get started, and I'm so excited to have so many different types of spaces to be working with. So I'd love to hear all your suggestions and thoughts down below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to be able to share a lot of kind of green witchery and herbalism content with you in the future as I start growing my garden. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you later. Bye!